And what an honor to serve you all. I serve the 11th Senatorial District, which includes all of Amelia, Colonial Heights, and most of Chesterfield. I'm a Christian, conservative, Republican, and I always say in that order. I serve on 4 committees: health and education, transportation, local governments, and privileges and elections. And as many of you know who've tuned in, many of the topics that we address on the show are issues that constituents have brought to my attention. And I'm also, as of 2 weeks ago, started a new segment as Meet the Legislators. And, I always feel like I'm Miss Smith going to Washington, but I'm not going to Washington. I'm going to Richmond. And I've met some really wonderful people. As a grassroots activist, a lot of us have these impressions of what legislators are like. And I was always a little skeptical, I have to be honest. And but when I got there, I was pleasantly surprised at how many wonderful people that serve in the state legislature. And you're going to get the opportunity to hear from our very own Majority Leader, Senator Tommy Norment, here in just a moment. I also would like to thank WNTW 820 AM, The Answer, for the opportunity to provide this public service to you each week. If you have a question about today's topic, it is a call-in show, so definitely call in. Our number is 804-454-1366, and we're going to do our best to answer your call on the show. So we are immediately going to get started by introducing my first guest today, Senator Tommy Norment. Are you there, Tommy? Do you have him on? So let me just give you a little biography about Senator Norment. Okay, let's see. Can you hear me now? Senator Norment, are you there?
I am. I keep getting knocked off the call. I apologize.
No, we're still working through this. We are so excited to have you on the show today. And, there's so many amazing things that I would like to say about Senator Norment, but I would like to begin just by giving them a little background. You graduated from VMI, which is wonderful. In fact, our board operator today commented that her boyfriend is from VMI, and I said, well, y'all have another cadet here calling in today. So she's excited.
He must be a great person.
I'm sure he is. And then you graduated from law school from the College of William and Mary, where now you teach. So you're actually a college professor.
Yes, and I'm not a liberal one either.
Thank goodness. It's such a relief. And, it's interesting, too, because Senator Norment has a lot of insight when we're talking in our caucus meetings. And I know you ask your classes a lot of questions about their views on particular issues. So I'm glad that you're training those minds out there to be conservative. That's important.
Well, Amanda, actually, I do it in the tradition of a great patriot, George Wythe. And when George Wythe was asked by Thomas Jefferson to start a law school at William and Mary, and Thomas Jefferson said, you need to have students that have a liberal arts education. But every year when the General Assembly would convene, George Wythe would take his students down to the colonial capital and would have them debate issues that were pending before the General Assembly. So William and Mary for many years has had a commitment to civic engagement, and I can't hold a candle to George Wythe, but at least I did duplicate or parrot some of his ideas.
Well, that's a great idea. We should actually have them to come before our caucus and debate some of these ideas so we can get some more ideas. But that's wonderful. So let me just give you all a little bit of background geography-wide. The third senatorial district that Senator Norment serves, he covers all of New Kent, Gloucester, King William, and King and Queen counties, and all of the city of Poquoson, portions of James City, York, Surrey, Isle of Wight counties, and portions of cities of Hampton and Suffolk. And I want to say most of these folks are actually able to listen in today, so hopefully they're tuning in. Our listening audience goes far and wide. I'm finding we're all the way in Amelia, all the way to the North Carolina, and even reach into Williamsburg. So hopefully they're tuning in today. Now,
well, that's great.
Now, you haven't always served in the Senate. You came to the Senate in 1991, but you have quite a bit of experience. After you graduated from law school, you went on to become you you're an attorney with Kaufman and Knowles. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes, you did. You very well. Some people think it's like an Italian dessert, cannolis.
Cannolis. That would definitely encourage a lot of people to go to work if they work for cannolis.
Yeah, it would.
But then you also have experience as the chairman of the board of James City County Board of Supervisors, and you left in 1991 to run for the Senate of Virginia, and you've been there since 1991. I won't tell you what year I graduated from college, but it was about that time, 1992. But I have a new respect for folks who have been in office because there's a lot to learn in the Senate, and I feel like this is just I'm finishing my second year in office, and there's so much to learn. So I appreciate. We don't want our legislature to be run by bureaucrats, so we need to have state senators that are in there for a while that actually know what's going on and can serve as leadership. So I really do appreciate your leadership. So,
well, Amanda, you're very generous, and I hope your listeners really appreciate the time and commitment and effort that you are putting into becoming an effective state senator. It's a lot of on-the-job training. Unfortunately, as you've learned, there's no school that you can go to that can really prepare you to govern as a part-time citizen legislator. But I hope that the people that you have the opportunity to represent are really appreciative about how hard you are working and how hard you're studying to learn not just how to legislate, but how to focus on a lot of issues that are very diverse in a very short period of time, and you're really doing a great job. And so as years go by, you continue to absorb more and more, and the issues become easy. But I just wanted to compliment you on what you have done during these first 2 years.
Well, thank you. You're very kind to say that. And wow, it's been a crazy 2 years. I mean, having Governor McAuliffe, who has headed up the executive branch, and all the challenges that we've had over the last 2 years. Everything from you had a bill in that would automatically restore rights to folks who were nonviolent offenders, and the Republicans were actually the kind of lead behind that bill. And I found it very interesting that years before, the Democrats had the exact same bill, but because it was a Republican bill, many of them would not get on board with it. And I remember sitting on the floor, and you read through the names of all of the folks on the other side who supported that bill, but they would not support it. So there's never a dull moment. There's never a dull moment. But
things like that, Amanda, really, to me, are very disappointing. There are a lot of issues where, I should say there are not a lot of issues where everything breaks down on a Republican or Democratic line. Many issues will break down on an ideological or philosophical basis, but I think it's just really a reiteration of the times that we're in, and even the General Assembly of Virginia has become much more polarized. And when you take a piece of legislation like that Restoration of Rights bill I had that was supported by Democrats just the previous year, and every one of them turn around and oppose it because a Republican is carrying it, that has nothing to do with the substance or the value of the issue. It's all about just raw politics, and I have to say I'm very confident that the governor asked that Senate Democratic caucus to oppose it, and it's very, very difficult to get as much done as we really should with that type of atmosphere.
Well, you're exactly right, and I really like how our caucus has kind of come together. For those of you who all don't know, we usually go on the floor of the Senate for votes around noon when we're in session during the winter months. And at 11:30, we get together to caucus, and we talk about, specific issues and try to make sure that we're all on the same page before. So we have kind of a game plan. It reminds me of a football team. My boys all play football. But, we've had a lot of really good discussions, and I would say that I feel like the Republican caucus works very well together, and that we have a uniform front on there, and we are all working for the people, and just the heart of those legislators who are in there are really doing their best to represent their constituents. And we're going to be back. We've got a 4-minute break. Senator Norment, you're going to come back in just 4 minutes, if that's okay. Do you mind? Do you have
No, that's
time?
fine. I'll be right here.
We have these hard breaks, so we have these advertisers that have to interject here, but we're going to come back. We have so many things that we want to chat about. The state budget is one of those. We want to get your opinion on statewide elections coming up in 2017, and then we want to talk about later legislation that was just passed into law and took effect on July 1st. So we have a lot of exciting things to talk about. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with Senator Tommy Norment, the Majority Leader of the Virginia Senate. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
My Contractor. All-in-One Services has been Greater Richmond's premier floor, bath, and kitchen remodeler for over a decade, saving local homeowners thousands of dollars. Call All-in-One Services now at 1-888-MY-CONTRACTOR. With All-in-One's A to Z service, you won't need subcontractors. Everything is included. All-in-One also lets you see your kitchen before it's remodeled with 3D software suited for homeowners and contractors alike. You'll quickly see why All-in-One is consistently in the top 5% of Angie's List and a repeat winner of their Super Service Award. With your floor, bath, and kitchen remodeling needs, call All-in-One Services today at 1-888-MY-CONTRACTOR. That's 1-888-MY-CONTRACTOR.
The Chesterfield County Colonial Heights Crime Solvers program wants to remind its friends that it is replacing the existing text and web tipping with a simple, easy-to-use mobile app called P3. The app, available on both iOS and Android platforms through the App Store or through p3tips.com, simplifies tip giving by making it a one-click process. Once users upload the app, they can leave anonymous tips for any jurisdiction that subscribes to the P3 mobile app. This means you will no longer need to remember a provision number or code word if you want to send a tip to Chesterfield or Colonial Heights. Don't want to put the app on your smartphone? You can always leave a tip through the web at crimesolvers.net or by calling the telephone hotline at 748-0660. As always, you will stay anonymous and could earn a cash reward up to $1,000. To learn more about P3, visit crimesolvers.net or go through Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at CrimeSolversCCH. And as always, take the time to solve the crime.
So, what would you do with an extra $500 a month in your budget? $500. This isn't hypothetical, by the way. This is something you may need to think about very soon if you decide to become a member of MediShare. MediShare is a way to pay for your health care, and typically it costs $500 less per month for a family versus other health care plans. So seriously, think about this. You could pay off loans, pay down a mortgage, save the money for retirement, donate to charity. That would be a big deal. But you know what? Here's the best thing. MediShare works. It has 250,000 members, and it's growing fast. With MediShare, not only do you save, you don't have to pay for things you don't believe in either, and that is a beautiful thing too. So here's how you can find out more, and you might actually wind up saving even more than $500 a month. So check into it. Here's the number. Call 844-43-BIBLE. That's 844-43-BIBLE. Now available in Montana. Call 844-43-BIBLE.
The following message is brought to you by Health Markets, your first choice when you need health insurance for your small business. Do you offer health insurance to your employees? Call us now and see if you can save money. Do you want to offer vision and dental to your employees? Call us. Do you think you're paying too much for your current health insurance? Call us. Do you want somebody else to do all the legwork and search thousands of health plans from over 180 health insurance companies nationwide? Call us. We're Health Markets, and thanks to a little-known solution, we could help your business save thousands of dollars on health insurance costs and save your employees money too. Our service is free. Don't miss the great savings. Call now.
800-651-3235. 800-651-3235. 800-651-3235. That's 800-651-3235.
Health Markets Insurance Agency is deep.
Welcome back to Cut to the Chase with Senator Chase. And today I have Senate Majority Leader, the Majority Leader of Virginia Senate, and also of the 3rd Senatorial District, Senator Tommy Norment, on the phone today. And we hope that you will call in with your questions. The number here is 804-451366. And, one of the things that Senator Norment and I have to get to the privilege of voting on is the Virginia state budget. And he actually is the co-chair of that committee. We affectionately call it the Money Committee, but it's technically called the Senate Finance Committee, of which he is the co-chair. So, and we've talked about this on the show, so they are very aware that in Virginia, we by law have to balance the budget. So I would love to get your perspective on what you see the biggest challenges for the budget is coming up in 2018 when we reconvene.
Amanda, thank you very much, and I'm glad that you are educating the listeners on the Virginia budget. It probably took me a decade before I realized that the most single important piece of legislation that we in the General Assembly dealt with was the budget. And the reason I say that is where we actually appropriate the tax dollars is a clear expression of where we are deciding what our policy preferences and priorities are. You hear a lot of discussion about other pieces of legislation. Usually there's about 3,000 pieces of legislation that are introduced in a session. But the budget is always the most important, not because it's just a clear expression of what our priorities are, but it is the most pervasive in that it impacts each and every citizen in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And I think it's very important that the point you just made, that unlike those folks in Washington, and I'll be very generous today and not characterize them worse than that, but we have to have a balanced budget in Virginia. We cannot borrow money. We cannot go to a Department of Treasury and issue bonds. We have to balance our budget. And it's been perplexing to me for many years, and I'm sure it's challenging to you, Amanda, being a fiscal conservative that you are, how in the world the feds do not have a balanced budget amendment. But that aside, we have maintained fiscal responsibility and conservatism, I think, on the budget in Virginia. There is a clear difference of opinions between our Democratic friends and those of us who are on the Republican side. But the financial issues have been more challenging in Virginia than I think most citizens realize, and it's going to continue to be that way in 2018 when we adopt our next 2-year budget. And the reasons for the financial challenges are pretty self-evident if you stop and think about it. Virginia is the second most dependent state per capita on Department of Defense dollars. And as everyone knows, under President Obama, he was cutting the funding to the military, which resulted in reduced funds to Virginia. And of course, we have gone through BRACs that have reduced the size of some military bases. We've also gone through sequestration. So that's really impacted Virginia significantly. And we're the home to many, many active duty servicemen and women, as well as retirees. So we continue to deal with that. The second thing, Amanda, that we all know that we are dealing with and we have dealt with is the continued recovery from the Great Recession. Virginia was hit disproportionately hard with the Great Recession. At one point, we were the 48th out of 50 states in recovering from the Great Recession. I think now we have moved up a few spots, but that's still nothing to brag about. So we are trying to dig our way out from the Great Recession, which has affected every family in Virginia. Another phenomena that we see that makes it challenging in Virginia is uncontrollable increases in spending that we have. They are things like Medicaid and Medicare reimbursements. That's not Medicaid expansion. That is just reimbursements. Virginia has a contract with the federal government that if the federal government increases the reimbursement, that contractually Virginia is obligated to increase it as well, and we have no say over that. We also have things like that are near and dear to you, Amanda, and I know you're a champion of public education and also alternative opportunities with public education. But we have to re-benchmark, or every couple of years we have to go back and reassess the amount of money that we are sending to localities for education. And the last point I will make, which I think is not well known, is that about 50 cents out of every dollar that is collected from taxpayers in Virginia is returned to local governments in what we call aid to localities. And that money is used from everything from public education to law enforcement to some programs that truly are provided for the needy. So half of every dollar collected is being returned to local governments for demands that they have. So that's just a couple of issues that we're dealing with.
Now, I know that one of the things that I've mentioned to our listeners is that basically our budget is committed already. I mean, if you look at, like you were saying, Medicaid, Medicare, we have education, we have transportation, and we've grown our, I think it's Medicaid, from 2% to 22% of our budget. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And so I know one of the concerns that a number of our constituents have had, especially following, the Trump care bill in the House. And in fact, we had Congressman Bratt to come on the day right off the floor to explain that bill to us, let us know that they were still in that bill. They were still going to cover pre-existing conditions. It passed. We happened to have our town hall the Tuesday after. There were a lot of unhappy campers at that meeting, but Dave and I both listened, and I know we've got a break coming up here in a minute, but one of their concerns had to deal with their loved ones and being denied care that they have had. And so we had the U.S. Senate bill that's coming through, and we were talking about block grants, and that basically what it looked like to me is it looks like an unfunded mandate is coming to the states soon, and hopefully not before session. It probably will come before session. And I know we've got a break, so we'll come back. Maybe we can chat a little bit about how that federal legislation through the Trump care will affect us at the state level when we come back from the break.
Okay, sure.
Okay, sounds great. We'll be back. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And write down the number, 804-454-1366, if you have any questions and would like to call in.
This hour on WNTW 820 The Answer, featuring Cut to the Chase with Senator Chase, is sponsored by All-in-One Services, Richmond's leader in flooring, bathroom, and kitchen remodeling. Call All-in-One Services today at 1-888-MY-CONTRACTOR.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington. Violence in the streets of Hamburg, Germany today, which will be hosting the G20 summit starting tomorrow. SWAT teams unleashed water cannon on anti-capitalist protesters after the black-hooded demonstrators went on a rampage. Police say a mother suspected of fatally stabbing 4 of her children, and the children's father was the Spanish-speaking 911 caller who reported the crimes. It happened this morning in the Atlanta suburb of Loganville, Georgia. At $46.5 billion, the U.S. trade deficit dropped about 2% in May. American exports rising to their highest level since April of 2015. A lower close for Wall Street. The Dow fell 158 points. The Nasdaq dropped 61, and the S&P down 23 points at the closing bell. More details at srnnews.com.
Dennis Prager here, and for 2 years now, I've been telling you about my wife, Sue, who tried Relief Factor because of her knee pain, and it worked. This is before I ever even heard about the product. I'd never endorsed a pain reliever, but now I am. And yes, now I'm taking Relief Factor too. Maybe you've heard me call it a miracle. In fact, listen to what Amanda from Texas wrote. I was having pain in my left thumb area and left side of my leg from my knee about 4 inches up. After about a week of taking Relief Factor, the pain in my leg has gone away, and a few days later, the pain in my left hand is gone. We've gotten thousands of these testimonials, and if you're struggling with ongoing back or neck pain, shoulder, hip, or knee pain, or general muscle aches and pain, do what my wife Sue did. Try Relief Factor. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call them toll-free 800-500-8384, 800-500-8384.
This week, the Hopewell Prince George Crime Solvers is seeking information on a recent robbery. On June 5, 2017, at approximately 10:27 p.m., a masked subject entered the 7-Eleven located at 3301 Oaklawn Boulevard in Hopewell and robbed the clerk at gunpoint before fleeing the business. The offender is described as a black male with a medium complexion, 25 to 35 years of age, 5'9" to 6 inches tall, 150 to 180 pounds with a medium build. He was last seen wearing a dark hooded sweatshirt, blue jeans, black in color sneakers, and was in possession of a dark in color handgun. Any persons having information on this crime are encouraged to contact the Hopewell Prince George Crime Solvers in Hopewell at 541-2202 or in Prince George County at 733-2777. You can also provide a tip via the web at tipsoff.com. If your information leads to an arrest, you can receive a cash reward of up to $1,000. Remember, criminals have nowhere to hide with you on our side. Lieutenant Paul Intravia for the Hopewell Prince George Crime Solve.
Hi, I'm Richard Lee of the Lee Brothers. We're the only two-headed talk show in Richmond, and we're on every Friday afternoon on Central Virginia's choice for quality talk radio, 820 WNTW, The Answer. For complete intolerance, a total lack of diversity, political incorrectness like you've never heard, and so much more, be sure to tune in to Lee Brothers every Friday afternoon from 3 to 6 p.m. on 820 WNTW, The Answer, and online at 820theanswer.com.
We know it was them who sent sound bites of Michael Savage to England to get him banned in England. You Nazi rats, you. You left-wing Nazi rats. Half of you are children of Holocaust survivors. You rats, you've been on drugs so long, you don't even know you become the worst scum on the planet.
Tune in to the Savage Nation, weekdays, here on Richmond's Choice for Conservative Talk Radio, WNTW 820, The Answer.
Thank you for tuning in to the weekly town hall. We've been doing this for a year now, and July is the month that we're celebrating our 1-year anniversary of Cut to the Chase with Senator Chase. It's our weekly call-in town hall and radio show. You're welcome to give us a call. Our number is 804-451-3666, and I do my best to have a spectacular guest on the show, and I did not disappoint today. We have Senator Tommy Norment, who's the majority leader of the Virginia Senate, where he represents the 3rd Senatorial District. And we've been talking about the budget. He is the co-chairman of the what I just call the Money Committee, Finance Committee in the Senate. And we are talking money and finance today because we know that our listeners want to make sure that they have a fiscally conservative Senate, which I'm thankful that we do. We balance that budget every year. And, after having the town hall that ended up making Meet the Press, we were not expecting that to happen. We had a lot of folks there that were concerned. And, listening and looking at some of the questions and everything, I think in a nutshell, what they're trying to say is that they're concerned that when we, go from an Obamacare system to a Trump care system, where is that going to leave the folks that may not be covered anymore. And, first of all, one of the things that we talked about is how Virginia is in a much better place because we did not adopt what I consider the Trojan horse. I mean, we don't have that. We don't have to fill in the gap there because the federal government's not going to, be paying that like they used to. So tell us where we are. What is Virginia going to do if the federal government passes on the responsibility to Virginia? Tell us where we are with that.
Well, Amanda, first of all, let me emphasize to your listeners that it was the leadership of fiscal conservatives like yourself and other Republicans that have blocked Medicaid expansion in Virginia. And that's been a subject of some discussion, if not dispute. But if you see what's going on nationwide, we have made a very prudent decision from a financial standpoint. If you heard on the news last week, states are continuing to experience the health insurance writers who are withdrawing from the marketplace. And it's becoming a very, very severe issue. And it's becoming an issue because these insurance companies are losing enormous amounts of money. I'm talking hundreds of millions of dollars because of the deficiencies in Obamacare. But where is Virginia? Back on June the 27th of this year, my co-chairman of the Senate Finance Committee, Emmett Hanger, and the chairman of the House Appropriations Committee, which writes the budget, and that's Chris Jones, sent a letter to both the majority leader of the Senate, Mitch McConnell, and the minority leader, the ever affable Charles E. Schumer, saying, hey, Virginia is very concerned about the redesign of this health care plan, and they made some specific recommendations that the Senate consider in their plan so it will not adversely impact. And they started off by saying that Virginia had been a very prudent steward of Medicaid funding and that we ought to not in Virginia be penalized because of the sensible decision that we made. And some of the concerns were, number one, is that if they are going to rewrite this health care bill, that make sure that there are not any funding discrepancies between states that expanded Medicaid and states that did not. There have been discussions and proposals that if you did not expand Medicaid, then the funding allocations between the states would be different. In other words, Virginia would be penalized on some funding issues because they didn't expand Medicaid, even though we have proven it was the fiscally responsible thing to do. They have also, in that letter of June the 22nd, said that states like Virginia need to have flexibility on how to administer any type of federal health insurance program that would be adopted by the Senate. In other words, those of you in Washington may think that you know what's going on in Virginia, but those of us who are elected officials like Amanda, who studies these issues, knows better how to adopt a system to what best meets the needs of Virginia. So we need flexibility in that regard. They also indicated that if they were going to adopt a new program, that there had to be some provision in there to maintain stability in the individual marketplace. I mean, there's been a lot of conversation about Obamacare, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, but basically what the nearsighted Obama administration did was they created a new entitlement program.
Senator Norment, we're going to have to go to a quick break, but you hang on to that thought, and we'll be right back, and he's going to finish talking about entitlement. Stay tuned. We'll be back with Senator Tommy Norment.
With a bachelor's degree, on average, you could make almost twice as much over a lifetime than a person with just a high school diploma. It's true. According to the 2012 U.S. Census Bureau, college grads with a bachelor's degree make almost twice as much as high school grads. Now, going back to school is easier than ever at Independence University. Log on and complete coursework from the park, or the beach, or even your couch watching the kids. And Independence University gives you the tools, a free tablet and laptop for undergrad grad students to use and keep when they graduate. That's right. Get a laptop so you can go to college from anywhere. Take the first step to a new career in business, information technology, healthcare, or graphic arts. Call to find the online degree program that's right for you, and you could be on your way to increasing your earning potential.
800-989-1361. 800-989-1361. That's 800-989-1361.
If your financial plan is even slightly out of tune, you may be paying too much for taxes, exposing yourself to too much risk, or retiring without a sound income plan. Listen to WNTW AM 820 The Answer on Saturdays at 9 a.m. and Sundays at 8:30 a.m. to Financially Tuned with Big John Pulowski of Norseman Advisory Group. You can contact Big John at 757-223-1559 or visit the website at norsemanagi.com.
Are you passionate about liberty? Then join Americans for Prosperity and hundreds of Virginians at the premier grassroots event in the country. The Defending the American Dream Summit is coming to Richmond this August 19th. Come hear top leaders discuss how we're rolling back big government policies that destroyed jobs and hiked our healthcare costs. Save now with early registration. Visit defendingthedream.com today. That's defendingthedream.com. Paid for by Americans for Prosperity.
Before the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People was the Dale Carnegie course. Now, after 104 years, over 8 million people experience Dale Carnegie courses. People like Warren Buffett and Ronald Reagan. The Dale Carnegie experience uses proven techniques to permanently unlock the potential of top talent, making individuals into inspiring leaders and groups into high-performing teams, while reducing the financial and emotional costs of employee turnover. For more information, visit DaleCarnegieRichmond.com. That's DaleCarnegieRichmond.com. All-in-One Services has been Greater Richmond's premier floor, bath, and kitchen remodeler for over a decade, saving local homeowners thousands of dollars. Call All-in-One Services now at 1-888-MY-CONTRACTOR. With All-in-One's A to Z service, you won't need subcontractors. Everything is included. All-in-One also lets you see your kitchen before it's remodeled with 3D software suited for homeowners and contractors alike. You'll quickly see why All-in-One is consistently in the top 5% of Angie's List and a repeat winner of their Super Service Award. With your floor, bath, and kitchen remodeling needs, call All-in-One Services today at 1-888-MY-CONTRACTOR. That's 1-888-MY-CONTRACTOR.
Thanks for tuning into our weekly town hall and radio show, Cut to the Chase with Senator Chase, and I am your state legislator, Amanda Chase, and I have Senator Tommy Norment, who's the majority leader of the Virginia Senate, where he represents the 3rd Senatorial District, serves on many committees, but the one we're talking about right now is his role as the co-chairman of the Senate Finance Committee. And one of the issues that we were talking about, and I apologize, I had to cut you off there for the break. I never like to interrupt a guest, especially not the majority leader. But we were talking about the Virginia budget and how it would be directly affected once Trump Care is finally settled. And I know that you all are in the process of in leadership of taking a look at that and how it would affect the Virginia budget. And I think that's what a lot of Virginians have come to me about. How are we going to is Virginia prepared, I guess, to handle this potential gap in our budget? So we have the expert on the line today. So we're glad you're with us. And you were talking about entitlements before we got cut off there. So love for you to pick up where you left off. Senator Norment still there? Okay, we're going to figure out where Senator Norment went. Hopefully he's going to be back on the phone. We were just talking, a number of you have written to me, called at the town hall, you're just expressing your concerns about the federal impact, how Trump Care would directly affect Virginia. Should we go to Trump Care, how will that affect everyday families? And so we are very thankful. Senator Norment, it looks like, has he already gone for the day, or is he back on the line? Okay, he might have gone on. Hopefully we'll get him back on the line here, but anyway, I think it's important for you all as constituents to know, that we are prepared. And whatever happens, that we're having these discussions now, so that January 1, that we're not caught by surprise. So there are a few pieces of legislation that I really wanted to talk about today with Senator Norment in regards to his 2017 legislation that was signed into law. One of those is Senate Bill 1578, and it has to do with short-term rental property, otherwise known as Airbnb. And some of you may have heard of that, maybe you haven't, but it basically has to do with you having the ability to, on a short-term basis, meaning 30 days or less consecutively, to basically rent out your home or unused space. And the new law basically requires registrations of persons offering their property for rental. And I think we have Senator Norment again. Are you there, Senator Norment?
I am back, Amanda.
I am so glad you're back. we missed you.
I'm glad you have a button to cut me off.
I am so sorry.
That's all right. I'm not the least bit offended, believe me, and it's a real privilege for me to have the opportunity to be on with you, because you are really one of the emerging leaders in the Senate of Virginia, so it's a privilege to be with you. We were talking about Obamacare as opposed to Trump care, and I think there are a couple of things that are really important, not just for Virginia, but for all Americans. The discussion about repealing and replacing Obamacare, I think it is still way too early to try and predict what a final bill from Congress and Senate is going to look like. And I think that even is presupposing that the Senate of the United States and the House of Representatives are going to be able to agree on a final bill. As I've been following it in the media, there certainly seems to be some comments coming from our president whether or not they will be able to get a final bill. There are discussions about going to block grants, and of course, Medicaid block grants have been talked about for years and years, and they're likely to come about as it deals with federal health care for one very simple reason. The feds do not have the funds to sustain this current program that was enacted under Obamacare. And as I was starting to say just before your hard break, is that I don't mean to be unkind or discourteous to anyone that's impacted by Obamacare, but in essence what the Democrats did, and I believe they did it intentionally, was to create a new entitlement program that they knew would be very difficult to unwind and even to try and amend. And so what you have done is you've created an expectation of providing health insurance to millions of Americans, which is a good thing. What is not a good thing is that the federal government does not have the money to sustain the program. They have not been able to keep health insurance underwriters into the marketplace, and they continue to exit it in various states, which is putting even a greater hardship on those individuals who are able to pick up federal health insurance. And the deductibles are astronomical. And those that have lower deductibles have astronomical monthly payments. And so the Democrats have created an entitlement program that they could not fund and that was not well thought out as a business standpoint. And we in Virginia, joining arms with fiscal conservatives like yourself who are trying to protect our state budget, have resisted just one portion of it, and that's the expansion of Medicaid. But I think it's way too early for anyone to anticipate what will be coming out of the federal legislation, if anything, and it's too early to start wringing our hands in despair but we do have to maintain our fiscal integrity, and we've tried to do some other things by being responsible, by putting additional money into the free health clinics, by looking at Medicaid, Medicare reimbursements. But it is just, I think, the most complex subject that I've had to deal with during my legislative career. And I'm very fortunate in that my co-chairman, Senator Emmett Hanger from out in Augusta County, really is very knowledgeable in this area of health care. But we're all going to have to continue to deal with it, Amanda, in the 2018 session of the General Assembly.
And it's going to be a long session. Now, we are getting ready to go to another hard break, but I want to first thank Senator Norment for coming on, taking time out of his very busy schedule to come on our show today and just share his expertise with our listeners. So thank you so much for coming on today. We really appreciate you.
Well, Amanda, thank you so much for having me. And once again, I just would be remiss if I did not wrap up by thanking you for your service, not just to your senatorial district, but to the entire Commonwealth of Virginia, and thanking you for maintaining consistent to the principles and the representations that you made to your citizens when you were elected. As you said, you are a Christian conservative, and you have remained very true to those values, and your constituents ought to be enormously proud of you, just as I am.
Well, you're very kind. Thank you very much. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be back for the final wrap-up.
Hi, I'm Richard Lee of the Lee Brothers. We're the only two-headed talk show in Richmond, and we're on every Friday afternoon on Central Virginia's choice for quality talk radio, 820 WNTW, The Answer. For complete intolerance, a total lack of diversity, political incorrectness like you've never heard, and so much more, be sure to tune in to Lee Brothers every Friday afternoon from 3 to 6 p.m. on 820 WNTW, The Answer, and online at 820theanswer.com.
All-in-One Services has been Greater Richmond's premier floor, bath, and kitchen remodeler for over a decade. Call All-in-One Services now at 1-888-MY-CONTRACTOR. With All-in-One's A to Z service, you won't need subcontractors. Everything is included. With your floor, bath, and kitchen remodeling needs, call All-in-One Services today at 1-888-MY-CONTRACTOR. You'll quickly see why All-in-One is consistently in the top 5% of Angie's List. That's 1-888-MY-CONTRACTOR.
Get your daily inspiration on our sister station, the Truth Network of Richmond, on AM 590 and 107.7 FM. The Truth Network is now on 107.7 FM, just up the dial. For 24 hours of encouragement, enjoy 107.7 FM. Realign your focus on the most important things. Just turn your dial to our sister station, the Truth Network of Richmond, on 590 AM and 107.7 FM.
Before a trip, you program your destination into the GPS. You need the best directions to get where you want to be.
You will arrive at your retirement in 8
It's the same for retirement. You need a voice to guide you. In Richmond, that voice is Isaac Wright. Join him every Saturday at 3 and Sunday at noon on WNTW 820 The Answer. Isaac's experience can help your retirement journey feel like a drive down easy street. Take the first step by tuning in Saturdays at 3 and Sundays at noon for Retire Right with Isaac Wright.
Arriving at your retirement.
Are you passionate about liberty? Then join Americans for Prosperity and hundreds of Virginians at the premier grassroots event in the country. The Defending the American Dream Summit is coming to Richmond this August 19th. Come hear top leaders discuss how we're rolling back big government policies that destroyed jobs and hiked our healthcare costs. Save now with early registration. Visit defendingthedream.com today. That's defendingthedream.com.
Thank you again for joining us today on Cut to the Chase with Senator Chase on WNTW The Answer. And now you can not only find us on AM 820, we can also find us on 97.7 FM. So if you're joining us, we're glad to have you. And we'll continue to have these weekly town halls every Thursday from 4 to 5. Next week, I have a guest host, a former delegate, Chris Saxman, who, if you've tuned in over the past year, he subbed for me several times and done a great job. He'll be here next week. And I actually get a vacation, so yay me. But he's going to sub for me next week, and I really appreciate that. But we have a great show coming up for you. Chris is what I call an expert on energy, and it sounds like the Trump administration is going to allow us to proceed moving forward. They're very supportive of drilling offshore, so you want to stay tuned next week to talk to former delegate Chris Saxman in regards to that. Once again, every Thursday from 4 to 5, you can hear Cut to the Chase with Senator Chase. We're going to do our best to answer your questions. Today, the phones are going to be closed for the rest of the show today because we've only got 2 minutes left before we have to go. But if you'd like to get notices of upcoming events, town halls where we get together in person, or a weekly newsletter, feel free to visit my website. It's on chaseforsenate.com. You can even check out we keep old recordings where we record our shows. You can go back and listen to prior guests that we've had on the show. As I mentioned earlier, I am interviewing other legislators. I'm going to start with the Senate and my Republican colleagues and other folks. We've also had folks from the other side of the aisle to come on, like one of the Senator Servell has come on as we were talking about coal ash. And so you never know what guest we're going to end up with, but we really do want you as the constituents and listeners to have an opportunity to meet those that represent you in the state Senate. And appreciate WNTW Radio for giving me the opportunity to have these folks on and to come on and chat with you all weekly here on our town hall. And, just make sure that you're paying attention. As you all know, hundreds of new laws taken effect this past Saturday, July the 1st, ranging from hunting attire to birth control. If you're one of those people that likes to ride on the left-hand lane on the interstate, I would highly suggest you might want to pick up a new habit and stay on the right-hand side, because now you can get a ticket and be charged $100 for every offense if you're a slowpoke in the left lane. So I'll be riding on the right hand. I tend to be a little bit of a slowpoke, so I'll be on the right-hand side too. There are some other things that are kind of interesting here. Like now you can wear blaze pink and abide by the law if you like to hunt, not just blaze orange anymore. So there you go. Those of you fashion lovers, there you go. We only have 30 seconds left of the break, so I'm going to go ahead and sign off to you. But we welcome you to tune in again next week with Delegate Chris Saxman as we cut to the chase on Senator Chase's weekly town hall. Stay tuned, and we'll see you next Thursday from 4 to 5. Have a great week.
This hour on WNTW 820 The Answer, featuring Cut to the Chase with Senator Chase, is sponsored by All-in-One Services, Richmond's leader in flooring, bathroom, and kitchen remodeling. Call All-in-One Services today at 1-888-MY-CONTRACTOR.
Breaking news, the 2017 housing market is heating up to be one of the most competitive on record, with home prices surging to levels not seen in over 15 years. Hi, this is Mark Livingstone with Cornerstone First Financial, and what does this news mean to you? If you're in the market to buy a home this year, it means you need to set yourself apart to win out over other offers in a bidding war. How do you do that? By working with Cornerstone First Financial. We're a direct lender with our own money. We're local to this area with a track record of getting loans to settlement on